So, before we start, I have a question for all of you here. Have you ever experienced a traumatic event before? For example, like a traffic accident? You just need to show me your hands. You don't need to tell me anything. Thank you so much. So the thing is, I have a very huge scar, and it was from a traffic accident. Not so long ago, actually, like last December, at the very end of the year, and it was the fender at the back of the motorbike that cut me. It was awful, and I could not ride the motorbike by myself a few weeks after that happened. And at that time, I thought, well, it was just a very unfortunate accident that happened to me, and the worst thing that could happen is potentially the scar, right? Now, some of you might think, well, yeah, it's not that big of a thing because I'm still standing here right now, right? I'm still talking to you guys, and I haven't lost my legs or my arms. But at the same time, some of you may think, well, at the end of the day, I'm just a girl, and it could become one of my insecurity, right? Now, neither of them are wrong. Neither of them are wrong. But it was not only about the physical side. When I got better and then I started to went out more, I ride the motorbike by myself again, I start to realize that whenever I pass the spot where the accident happened, or whenever that I see a fender at the back of the other motorbike that going across me, I got flashbacks. Well, I didn't expect this, but these flashbacks has actually brought up a fear in me. I was afraid to experience the accident again. Now, I would like all of us to wear the same shoes. And when I say shoes, I mean shoes. We have this very cutesy pair of Crocs, and this represents the running away Ling. Now, this is actually what I was wearing when the accident happened. And why was I wearing Crocs to school? That's a story for another day. Now, back to our fear. The first thing that would probably pops up in our head would be, how can we avoid this? And it's not just the first thing, but it's the only thing that we believe we can do, is to avoid. We might start from avoid thinking of the accident, avoid talking about the accident, avoid talking about motorbike, talking about the scars, talking about what happened to us that day, right? And it's fairly reasonable. It's fairly reasonable to behave like this, but they will get worse. From avoiding thinking to canceling any possibility that could lead to this accident happening again. For example, avoid passing the spot, like going to places that might require you passing the spot, or even avoid going out, right? And you see now this is actually stopping you from doing certain things in your daily basis. And we've been taking these avoiding because we've actually think that now as long as we're outside, the accident could happen anytime. Now we've been taking these avoiding behaviors as protection from threats. From early childhood, we got taught and we believed that they are protecting us. But the fact is they are only pushing the fear's growth, making it less controllable and more dominant over time. Now, the fear is still there, and it's growing, right? And we're running away from it. But we cannot run away from it forever because eventually we will get tired, and the more we avoid, the more likely for it to happen to us. Then what else can we do, right? That's not what we want. We don't want that fear to forever haunt us, right? This is when we're stepping into our Sabrinas. These are my favorite basketball shoes, and if you ever ask me for a recommendation, please get these ones. But not the USA colorway, right? Okay. Now, to some of you, life might be short. Some of you, life might be long, but we've been here only. That's the very small proportion, right? And we got to accept the fact that, okay, unfortunate things could happen to us anytime throughout our lifetime, right? And what we fear could be one of them. that could happen to us. Now, if we pay close attention to the fear, we will see that even when that worst situation that we fear actually happened to us, there will always be something that we need to do next. Let's say, okay, the accident happened again. We might be so panicked and terrified at first, but then we must move on to the problem-solving stage. We might need to pull ourselves over, check our body to see if we're injured. If we're injured, we might need to decide whether continue our way to school or go back home, right? So therefore, instead of worrying about whether it's going to happen or not, we should be focusing on preparing for it. Now we're taking the accident as a lesson to learn from. We can learn how to control our speed, right? Which is not only safe for us, but for others. We can also learn how to do first aid kit if we got injured, or to react when we got into an accident, right? There are lots of things to learn from. Now, by doing so, we're not avoiding it, but accepting it. Now, we as human, we got different kinds of fears to ourselves, right? But generally, there are two types. The first ones are the ones that have not happened to us yet, but we might have seen them happen to others, and now we're afraid they will happen to us. And the second ones are the ones that happened to us, and we're afraid of them happening again. Now, for the will happen again ones, we've already got that accident as a very clear example. But let's take another one, which is more relatable. How about love, relationships, right? When you got heartbroken so bad that maybe your ex cheated on you, or things just did not work out, and now you lose faith in love. You're afraid to fall in love again. You're afraid to step into a new relationship again because you don't want to experience that heartbreaks again, right? And yeah, by avoiding love, avoiding relationships, you're preventing yourself from those heartbreaks. But at the same time, you're also preventing yourself from achieving that chance of you live in happiness in relationships, right? And for the will happen ones, let's think about the situation when you got this brilliant idea of a business venture maybe, or any project, right? And then you've seen others failing while doing this similar thing, and now you're afraid that, what if I fail too? And now you're stopping yourself from doing what you would have done, right? Because you're afraid. And by doing so, of course, you're preventing yourself from failing, but at the same time, you're preventing yourself from succeeding. Now, the fact is that 90% of the time, these fears are just lying to us. They're actually not going to happen, but they lied, right? But what if it falls into the other 10%, where they actually happen? Well, it actually does not matter, because, we're going to bring acceptance to the table, starting by identifying the fear, which is actually you confronting it. You admit it to yourself that, okay, I have this fear. I do afraid of this, right? And that's totally fine, because we're human beings. Having fear is totally fine, right? And the next thing is something that I did, and I would highly recommend to any one of you to do, is that to talk things out. When I first realized that, okay, I have this fear of the accident, I decided to share it with my sister, my beloved sister. And then I realized that, well, that fear is actually not that massive. I am capable of overcoming it, right? Because by talking it out, by sharing it with the people that you trust, would help reduce the pressure of that fear on you. And then we're going to step into that process of convincing yourself. This might sound a bit pessimistic, but it's actually just you constantly telling yourself that I am capable of overcoming this fear. I can handle this fear, right? And I can learn a lot. I will get so much stronger after overcoming this fear, right? Telling yourself and cheering yourself up, right? And our last ingredient which is to imagine yourself when what you fear actually happens. And again, this might sound contradicting to what I've said that I had at the beginning, the flashbacks, but there is a huge difference because now we're proactively picture ourselves in that situation where you fear. And by doing so, you will find out that, okay, it's not that massive, right? It's not that huge of a fear. And this is actually a foolproof method because it's used for treating patients with phobias, which is like the higher, almost highest level of fear, right? And yeah, basically I think that's enough of me talking for today, right? Because now I want every one of you, when you walk out of this hall, to start doing the same thing to your fear. But just remember, no one is perfect, right? We are not flawless. Making mistakes is all right. Failing is all right. Not pretty enough, all right. Not smart enough, that's okay too, right? But take these failures, take these mistakes as lesson to learn from them, to upgrade yourself, to improve. That's what you should do, right? And because instead of avoiding, we should accept it. Accept that, okay, I do have this fear. I'm not good at this yet, and I cannot change what happened to me, right? And lastly, hard work pays off. This never gets old. Because, things that are worth doing, worth achieving, worth learning, they will never be easy. They will never be easy. They will be challenging. And that's why they are they will take lots of time and effort, right? But that version of yourself, after you've overcome that fear, would never disappoint you. Like, just think of that situation where people were talking about this fear and that fear, and you would be there, and you say, "Oh, well, what is fear? I don't have that word in my dictionary, right?" Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that fear is like not necessary, but you should not let it block our way, right? But instead, we should take it as a chance to improve, to learn, to grow, to get stronger, right? And let's all become that version of ourselves, that fearless version of ourselves. I'm in. Are you guys in? And that's the power of acceptance from overcoming fear. I'm Gia Linh, and thank you for listening to my TED Talk.